Hello and welcome to Invisible Walls. This is our new stage. It looks a lot like the old stage because we're not quite done yet. Today I have Daniel Bloodworth, Patrick Morales, and Marcus Beer, and we are going to talk about the next Xbox. We don't know anything.
Right.
And some of us could have known things, but we decided not to because there's lots of paperwork.
Nobody knows anything in the industry, and yet everybody's been making shit up for months.
Well, I mean, obviously there's been tons of rumors. I mean, ever since, I think we've known about we've heard code word Durango for maybe a year now?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Those code words tend to be pretty accurate too. Like, like Nintendo's Nitro and Revolution and all that stuff.
Dolphin?
Out there. Yeah, Dolphin.
Yeah.
Cafe.
Well, when was Cafe?
Were you?
Really? Okay, I don't remember that. The Wii U felt like it leaked, and then Nintendo was like, "Yeah, we're doing that," like the next day. I guess with Tuesday approaching, and we're going to be doing a live stream on Monday as well. Where Mr. Daniel Kaiser is going to come in and has a very structured and rigid plan of how we are going to discuss and dissect all the Xbox anticipation. But here it is more of a casual conversation, and I'm just curious, like what are you actually expecting on Tuesday? Especially after PlayStation had their PlayStation meeting.
It's a smaller conference, so I'm expecting there to not be as much. I think they're going to leave some big things for E3 for sure. I think that they will probably at least introduce what the system is kind of going to be like. What some of the key features that are going to differentiate it, because kind of like PlayStation having like this weird like touch screen and the Move Light kind of thing and those kinds of things. Like I think they're going to show off a little bit of like what makes the new system what it is.
So you think they're going to bounce back off what PlayStation did, or do you think they're going with their own plan? They're not even taking that into account.
I don't think they're taking PlayStation into account too much, but unique features like the share button, that type of thing. Like I think that they're going to bring those up to show like why you should start getting excited and start thinking about it.
Marcus, I gotta ask, DRM, do you think they're gonna?
I don't think it's going to go always on.
Do you think they're going to acknowledge that concern? Do you think it's going to be completely not addressed at all, or do you think it's going to be part?
Well, let me
side note, a footnote.
Jump back to what you and Blood were talking about. I think they will have looked at what PlayStation did. Microsoft are too savvy in the marketing department not to have been fully aware and fully dissected everything that Sony has done and everything's been announced, because that is their major competition. I think they will figure out what they can do in a 1 hour. I think they will come out and will address the always-on issue, the no-used games issue, because this is not a press conference in New York that a bunch of journalists are going to that's maybe streamed live on the internet. This is also global television announcement that people will be sitting in front of their TV to watch, and that ramps it up. I mean, this is their first chance to really come out there and set the stall high, and I think they will basically nail a couple of the issues out of the boat. We'll probably have a couple of minutes of the Xbox was great, the 360 became the market leader, and blah blah blah, and then they will get into the core, what everybody's looking for, and that's the games. They have to bring the games. Screw Netflix. Screw Facebook.
See, it's funny you say the games, because I always feel like, obviously when there's new hardware is on a really high platform, and there's a lot of questions, but in the end it's all to serve the games. Except now maybe it's to serve your media streaming or whatever they want to be in your house, this kind of extra box, right? Which they're doing. I mean, the app announcements are nuts, but I don't want to get too far off. I kind of feel like it's going to be a focus. I mean, I know the Call of Duty said they're going to be there, but I feel like they are really going to go hit hard with hardware. Like, how again, it's weird because I have the PlayStation meeting still so fresh in my head, and I feel like the first 15 minutes of the PlayStation meeting is going to be there, but a little bit more drawn out. Since we are so close to E3, I think they are going to. They'll show us some stuff.
Yeah, they'll talk about the tech specs. I mean, they have to do that. They have to come out and say, all right, well, we have X amount of this RAM, and we have this quadraphonic, oral, smelly, smell-o-vision crap. And they will talk about Kinect, obviously.
And I think they will show the box.
That's a good question.
Yeah, I think
Patrick, are we gonna see the box?
I think so.
Okay.
I think
That
we
was
might see more than one.
To the point.
Well, I'm waiting for Marcus to finish his thought.
No,
Okay.
Like a polite gentleman.
I think they will, they'll talk the tech specs, but they realize that, yes, there is another thing in 2 weeks' time at E3, which will be predominantly more for the, the financial side, and they will have the, that's when they'll stream the apps out, and we're doing this, and this, but they have to get the games out first and foremost, because if they don't come with games, Sony have just taken a quantum jump ahead of them.
Yeah, I feel like, the always-on DRM discussion is definitely going to be the elephant in the room. But I also feel like, and I expect that they'll have a bigger conversation about Xbox Live. For too long, Xbox Live has kind of gone on to be this big question, right? Like, why are we still paying for this thing? And I think mainly the reason why it got that way was, of course, Xbox was the first to kind of bring online to, in the last few years to people on consoles.
Are you talking about Xbox One?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
With like a centralized thing as opposed to the weird ad hoc stuff on the PS2. If you had like a USB modem and all that random stuff.
Yeah. So I think it might have been able to justify itself back then since it was still a new thing. But since then we've seen the Wii online, we've seen the PS3 online. So
see, you say that, yet they raised the price of Xbox Live $10. Last year or 2 years ago?
Right.
So I don't think they're gonna really be abandoning it.
I think that.
Well, I expect them to justify it further. Like I want to see what they are offering.
I think that they do need to start offering more reason to be excited about the service for sure.
Well, do you think that means that, you're saying games, lots of rumors, again, to go back to apps, that this is going to be your stream box, the thing that you're going to be doing all your internet stuff on your TV with. Do you think that's going to be one of the milestones as well, or is that going to be maybe pushed aside for E3? Or do you think it's going to be wrapped up into live discussion?
We'll see.
I think the Xbox Live stuff, they need to, Sony and Microsoft Sony and Nintendo have stolen a march. Sony in particular, with, they have the basic PSN, which anybody can play online, and then they have the PSN Plus, where you get these free games, great game offers, and you get additional stuff which you don't get on Xbox Live. I mean, I think if they want to introduce, make gold free, where anybody can get on and play a multiplayer game and have the full multiplayer experience, that is a positive step. And then if you want to pay $50 or $60 a year, and it will guarantee you 2 or 3 older games, and it will guarantee you, a couple of other things, then that's great. But cutting off things like Netflix or anything else at gold level is just going to basically weaken their argument to be the set-top box in the middle of the living room, because people will just say, all right, well, I won't bother with that. I will get a PlayStation, which I can do all that stuff the same, probably for free or for a minimal cost, and I'll stream from my iPad.
Can I ask a stupid question that I don't know the answer to? Can you use apps if you have a silver account? I've not had a silver account.
I don't think so, because I keep seeing people
No,
complain that they have to have gold to use our app. So
yeah, see that seems like a real misfire. I think that is going to be rescinded.
And
that should be rescinded right now, honestly.
Well, it gives up a lot of money. It does give up a lot of money, but they bumped the price. And if you want to do that, just have an ultra platinum version. Look, there are other rumors that there will be ads. If you're a gold subscriber, you basically get gold for free, but there will be ads before your apps pop up or whatever. That's obviously not something many people want. But I think the other thing that's, people have been talking about, a certain amount, and I've heard a lot of from some people who have contacts at Microsoft, is this whole DVR television cable tie-in, that they want the next-gen Xbox to replace the cable box.
yeah,
And that's where they have partnerships. They've already got HBO Go and ESPN. The next step is to partner with DirecTV or with one of the big cable or satellite providers.
That's pretty interesting, because cable has been shedding subscribers, and they're upping prices to counterbalance that.
I canceled my plan yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had cable in 14 years.
So you think about it, then you have a DirecTV app that streams this stuff in, because you don't really need a satellite anymore. It can stream in over your internet. So you have that coming in. You pay your DirecTV fee. DirecTV makes more money because they don't have to actually provide a box. Xbox is already set up for the cloud system with cloud saving. So all of a sudden you're saving your DVR stuff to the cloud.
yeah.
So you don't need a huge hard drive anymore. And then you can also tie it in and bring down the cost of the Xbox, where it's like, all right, subscribe to DirecTV and get a free next gen Xbox, or have a partial subscription and get a $99 or $199.
Right, and plus, I think what feeds into that is, you've seen, after the success of HBO Go, like DirecTV and some of these other providers have been doing their own, tablet apps and things like that. So that all feeds into that same direction.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it. I'm sure you call DirecTV. I don't need the box anymore. I'm going with it. Going to get an Xbox. I'm going to continue my subscription with you for another 2 years, whatever. Yeah, $99. I've got an Xbox.
And then the way Time Warner or AT&T bundle in cable and video plans and all of that, they can do the same thing with Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
To divulge just a little bit back more to games and the console itself, with everything becoming a PC and the Xbox, being a PC as well. And PlayStation 4 and going to x86 and stuff like that. I know this is going to be kind of a weird question, but before, when you had different consoles, it really was comparing apples to oranges because they all had their own foreign architectures and different RAMs and stuff, and it was kind of fun to be like, well, it's more powerful because it does this many megaflops, but then this one does the trilinear filtering and
blast
all
processing.
that stuff. Yeah, we'll take it in a way back.
voxels.
Do you think, even though now it will be more of an apples to apples comparison, will it even matter as much as these are just straight PCs? Are we going to be really yes, people, don't get me wrong, people are going to be comparing the RAM sets and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But is it going to be, is it so much more vanilla now that it's just going to be, technically could you build one of these in your backyard, with off of stuff from Newegg?
Well, you probably could, but you'd probably have to downgrade it a lot because it's still not going to reach the capabilities of a top-end PC.
Well, that's a whole other discussion. But I mean, are there going to be these weird spec wars now that? This is like when you watch someone can review a graphics card, but what you really want is the benchmarks because that's facts. And now we're going to have facts instead of people being like, well, this is cool and this is cool. And obviously the games are going to be the final kind of showpiece. But do you think it is the spec war is going to be as interesting as it was in the past?
Well, I think it's going to be interesting, at least for the kind of early onset of this generation, because the median level of hardware, between the 720 or whatever they're calling it and the PS4 and what you can get at a PC will be roughly almost at the same level, so there will be no distinct, lead platform. And actually, they mentioned that Dark Souls 2, they were kind of developing for the PC first and then the other system second. So I love that they're taking that approach and not letting hardware kind of limit them. And I'm curious how it's going to play out in the first few years until the PC does again manage to outpace it.
I kind of feel like they're more likely going to be so similar that it will actually come down to exclusives. We're not going to have stuff like this generation where Skyrim is awful on the PS3, so don't do that. Don't buy Skyrim on PS3.
We'll say it's awful on Wii U.
But unfortunately for Nintendo apart, it does bode well for the quality of games in general, though, because you're going to have Western developers who aren't going to have the problems that Bethesda did with their engine for Skyrim and for Fallout. That you're now going to have these games that are going to be practically, identical, apart from a couple of things, and that's going to be interesting. And that's why I think whoever gets to market at the first and at the right price.
And the library, of course.
And well, that's the flip side. Is my last little question is, we saw PlayStation 4 exclusives at PlayStation meeting. Obviously, Killzone is going to be only on PlayStation. Infamous is only going to be on PlayStation. Knack is only going to be on PlayStation. But Killzone in particular, because that was the graphics poster child for the PlayStation 3. Is Microsoft going to meet that level?
They have to.
Or are they going to go past it? Do you think they saw what PlayStation was doing and they're like, let's try to do something, do it live, make sure it's not like bullshit pre-rendered stuff, and make sure that we are wowing people? Because I feel like a lot of people are still a little underwhelmed at PlayStation.
Well, they did decide to delay the Xbox thing for how many weeks or a month?
A month.
How much could they accomplish in that time?
Well, it's closer to E3 because E3 was obviously the grand unveiling for a lot of things, and a month when you're polishing a vertical slice or whatever is actually a huge amount of time, especially when Microsoft throws their not inconsiderable, not inconsiderable resources at it. What I would say is this is the big question: what can Microsoft bring to the games arena? We've just had a Halo, we've just had another Gears of War. We know that the third parties are going to be there. Activision will be showing off Call of Duty. Bungie seems to have tied their
Well,
flag
that's kind
to
of why we
PS4.
ended up doing. That's kind of why we ended up doing that Rare countdown, because it was like, what else do they
Yeah,
have?
They make Kinect
what
games.
has but what has Rare been doing?
Making Kinect games.
Yeah.
Kinect is going to be a big
Avatars.
part of it, but Microsoft have been very quiet on the first party front for the last 18 months.
Oh, easily, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, we've talked
so-
about this. This actually is a beautiful segue to, kind of what I wanted to call the forgotten Xbox and some Xbox memories and stuff like that. And like, what really came to me when we were trying to cherry pick Xbox exclusive series, and they kind of came down to one hand. We dug pretty deep and like, oh yeah, Crackdown and stuff. And another one I kind of forgot about, and it only really had 1.5 games, was Alan Wake.
Yeah.
But that was a game. That was, that's the Duke Nukem of the Xbox exclusive lineup party, right? They had that crazy trailer, the guy running down to the lighthouse and everything. Are we going to be seeing stuff that we're not going to play until 2018 tomorrow? I mean, like Last Guardian style? I mean, does anyone else have any other kind of maybe forgotten Xbox memories?
Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Obi-Wan, the first Star Wars Xbox game that was horrible.
Xbox One.
Yeah.
Oh.
That was an Xbox exclusive. Look, I think, they don't have perhaps some of the more recognizable franchises that the Sony has. Sony has on first party cleaned house, and cleaned Microsoft's clock over the last 3 years. They have Halo, they have Gears of War, they have Forza. I would love to see a Crackdown 3, not done by the pissants who did Crackdown 2. What is Rare going to do? I keep on going back to this Killer Instinct thing. Will we see a Killer Instinct game?
Well, I think too, with a lot of people bringing up the point of like Rare being a shadow itself, I don't think it's necessarily Rare the company, but it's those franchises. They have things that they could pull from and refresh. And I think even something like Cameo, that game was a very interesting title, and the main reason it kind of it wasn't as great as it could have been is because it went through 3 different platforms before they finally put it out on
Yeah,
the
I mean,
360.
I played it on the Xbox One. And
And I saw it on the GameCube back in the day. It was
Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Yeah. Conker, they did a remake and then they kind of left it alone.
Fur, right?
Yeah.
They did 2 no, just 1 remake, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
This may be a little reaching. I know we talked about this briefly yesterday, but I really, really liked Panzer Dragoon Orta,
Yeah.
which was an exclusive Xbox game through Sega, and that was one of those games that really showed that the Xbox One was like a graphical powerhouse compared to the other systems at the time. But it made me think. I was thinking about this last night. Is what's happened to that Sega?
I think
Kinect game.
I also think the phrase you're looking for is what's happened to Sega.
Yeah, I know. That's why I paused right there. I was like, that would work as well.
Yeah.
But remember that there was that game that looked like a spiritual successor to Panzer Dragoon Orta,
Right.
Or Panzer Dragoon. That was a Kinect game, and it's kind of gone radio silent. I know there was a big leak.
Did it not come out on like a downloadable?
It got leaked, but I'm curious if maybe that's going to be like a Kinect 2.0. They're going to like revamp
Right.
it or something like that. Maybe it was done, and something like that. It's weird because now obviously Sega's been out of the console market now for, a generation and a half, 2 generations really. I'm curious if maybe that could be a partnership. I know we talked about Splinter Cell a lot and how Splinter Cell was a timed exclusive, but amazing on Xbox, and then really got like the shaft when it was downported. Now everything's going to be equal, and obviously we saw Conviction as a platform exclusive. What's that? 2 years ago? 3 years ago?
Yeah.
But you don't see the third-party stuff too much unless it is tied to like Kinect, right, or a very Wii U game tablet or something
Well, I think
like
that's
that.
where Microsoft will be reaching into the bank, and we'll see the Call of Duty exclusives. We will see the DLC and the map packs probably hitting first on the new Xbox.
They haven't said anything about GTA 5 yet, have they? And they
No.
did a lot with 4.
Well, I know they did, but I mean, the Xbox was already out when GTA 4. They had the Battle of Gay Tony and the other one, the biker centric one. But GTA will be out before these consoles, and we don't even know if we're going to get an up-res version of GTA. But I think that's where Microsoft will exercise the bank balance. They will say, look, here's the checks, make this one exclusive, make that exclusive, and we might see some games coming that we thought were going to be multi-format, and Sony will lose out.
No tattoo sightings as of yet.
And not really an exclusive franchise, but it was a game that I think a lot of people did dig. I never played it, but was we talked about this as well, is Crimson Skies.
Yeah.
That kept kind of
It's one of
surfacing.
my first online Xbox titles.
Yeah. So you ponied up for Xbox Live back then?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the I don't know.
That's
I
why
looked
I
into-
have my name is just my name.
So Microsoft owns the rights to it, but they re-released them to the owners of the franchise. So it's weird. I'm not sure if that's, again, with the cost of production going up so much, it is going to be weird to see what's actually made, where things have to pay for themselves, right?
Yeah, one of the things that I think is going to be interesting, because the architecture is changing to, predominantly it is a PC. See how Microsoft handle working perhaps with indies, because they started off doing very well with the indie developers, and then they kind of fell by the wayside, and now you're seeing more and more stuff coming out of Sony. But where you've got this brand parity, or this parity now, where it's easy to produce for the new console because it's PC. If Microsoft is smart, and they'll take advantage of Kickstarter and start talking to these guys about bringing stuff to Xbox on an exclusive basis.
They did have the Xbox Live Indie Game kind of initiative a while back, and then
But then they shut it, didn't they?
Yeah,
No, it's still there. It's just hidden.
I thought XNA got shut down. But the other
No,
thing
the indie
is,
games are still there.
XNA cost a lot of money to sign up for.
Well,
It was a shit. It was a
they
shit ton
they
of money.
stopped development for XNA, and I think
Okay, they still
Xbox
did.
Live Indie Games is something way different now.
oh, okay. But there's still indie games being
Yeah.
made
But
and
to
stuff.
be
Yeah,
even
yeah.
considered for that, it did cost a lot of money to sign up for. And I think, Sony is learning from that, and Sony are pushing forward with the amount of stuff. They're talking about waiving fees for developers who want to develop for PlayStation Network moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I know from the Fez guys, doing a patch, right? It's like
Yeah.
we can't afford the $30,000
Yeah.
to do
Yeah.
a patch.
It's bullshit.
And Microsoft need to be aware of this, and if they're smart, they will. If not, I think they're going to start to lag behind. They might go from the number one console of this generation, and I don't include Wii in that, because I don't think Wii was of that,
Well, I'm
that
still
generation.
flabbergasted that EA is not putting out Madden on it. That's crazy. Because Madden came out on like the N64 after the N64 was dead. So that's always crazy.
Well, apparently, from what I've been told, their license agreement is basically every time there's, for every different SKU they produce, there's an increment, there's a fee they pay.
Makes sense.
As part of their overall license. So,
Yeah, I mean those up ports that they did or cross ports they did didn't sell well, so I can totally see that. To kind of slide across, keep it kind of more in the next gen vein. I wanted to have this conversation about the MMO FPS because I keep seeing this. We briefly talked about this, so I wanted to kind of make it a bigger conversation. Is PlanetSide hit last year? People really dug it, free to play. Dust is out now, which isn't completely an MMO, but tied in with Eve, it does have that kind of stuff.
Defiance.
Defiance is a third person, and Firefall,
MMO
and
3PS.
Yeah.
and but obviously what we've heard about Destiny, the rumors about Respawn's game and stuff like that. I have a feeling, man, that in 2 years or in 18 months, everyone's going to be playing MMO FPSs, not literally, but I think it's going to be a huge swath that people are.
Yeah, I could see very easily Borderlands 3 going in that direction as well. I mean, it's it's definitely something that people are kind of latching onto.
But I'm curious, like, what do we want from those? I mean, like, I know you played PlanetSide. We've played. Did you play WoW? I don't remember.
No,
But
I mean,
you
I
played
played Defiance, I
Defiance.
played Mag.
Yeah, so you played MMOs like WoW and.
We had
stuff.
this conversation at the Activision press conference on Tuesday while we were waiting in line. Remember?
Yeah, I've been bringing this up a lot.
Yeah, but we were talking about what can they do and how can they push forward. And
Because PlanetSide 1, I'm sorry to just jump in there. Like when PlanetSide 1 was announced, like 2099 or something like that,
Yeah.
it sounded awesome and crazy, and then everyone was like, it's like playing a multiplayer match that never ends.
Well,
Which I think
plus-
even PlanetSide 2 has a little bit of that,
the
right?
does have
learning,
that same
the
syndrome,
learning
yeah.
curve on PlanetSide 1 was practically vertical. I mean, you'd get in I came to it like 3 weeks after it launched, and I got in and I was just getting my ass handed to me simply because everybody else had already ranked up, and I think that's the key to any MMO FPS is ranking and matchmaking.
So how does it work? I mean, do you want persistent worlds? Should it be match based? I mean, if it's match based, what makes it different than just playing?
I think
Call
one
of Duty.
Well, one of the things you get, in most MMOs is you get PvP, you get PvE, you get the role play servers, and I think if somebody can really sort of like bring that to bear, where all right, well, I want to go in and play a huge giant co-op game, and I'm playing against AI or whatever, that could be a great part of it. I do like the persistent world thing, and I don't think anybody's really maintained that. To actually be part of something where, yes, right, okay, well, you be online, you're part of this, something gets blown up, and once it's blown, it's gone. You have to try and rebuild it and protect it. And that's one of the things that we talked about Starhawk, remember? About how you have people in one base, people in the other base, and nothing in between. I mean, managing a storyline, I mean, it's one of the things I hope for in the Old Republic that they never really nailed.
Persistence hard, man. I mean, it's the reason like people love Ultima Online, but they also hate Ultima Online, because it was the only MMO that really did it. Or you can play a Minecraft server, right? That kind of has that level of it.
Look, it's very hard.
Get some errors.
But we are kicking up again to another generation. Internet is getting, people getting more and more bandwidth. I think it is something that is doable. I mean, personally, I'm, having just read Ready Player One, I know what system. I want a fucking Oasis system to have my own personal, persistent world. But persistence is great. Why not have a real world shooter? I mean, Call of Duty, I could see that going to an MMO shooter in a couple of years' time, a subscription fee, both consoles and PC all in one go. People playing together, cats and dogs living together, the apocalypse for everybody, and having these persistent things, because we've heard rumors about the new Call of Duty thing that we can't talk about. But, I could see some of that stuff going into a persistent world. Wouldn't it be cool to do that?
Well, what do you think, Patrick? You played you reviewed Planetside for us.
Well, for me, I feel like a lot of MMO FPSs like to hang their hat on the sense of scale that they try to go for, right? These huge, persistent battles that go on endlessly. And for me, I feel like that kind of sense of amazement from big-scale battles have ceased to be impressive to me ever since, games like Battlefield have been able to pull off something of a comparable scale,
Some Nova Logic games back in the day, Marcus?
Yeah. It's like even, Tribes did that cool stuff way back when, 128-player matches. For me, though, I feel like even though PlanetSide 2 is a technical accomplishment, it's really cool at what it does in terms of, bringing together hundreds of players in kind of one space. It's the reason why, I'm still not playing it and why I've gotten tired of it was because it didn't have enough of that structure that made it feel like you were playing with an entire, nation of people. It felt like it was an ongoing multiplayer match, no different than what I would experience if I were to join up in a Battlefield server. I feel like the way that that type of game could define itself in the future would be to kind of aggressively pursue a sense of contribution to the world, a way that makes it feel like you're working towards something. And I'm not saying that in a way that's like, okay, well, just have quests and have, little dailies to do every day. I feel like maybe something like what Firefall is doing in terms of kind of bringing in more of the RPG aspect and making it a tangible world that you're actually kind of exploring and, making your path through. Or, something like Destiny, where they were teasing like little bits of interactivity outside of the game, with portable devices or whatever. I think making it feel like you're playing a shooter with other people in a way that's not necessarily, just,
pew pew
with a crosshair, is what will kind of set that apart.
It needs to be more than the shooting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, like a part of the world. Sorry, Brad. Go on.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I've continued playing Defiance, and I really like just kind of the base structure, even though I feel like there's a lot more that can be done on top of that. But the base structure of you're going through your quests as if you're playing a single player game, and then you run across other people and you join up with them, and then you cross into this shadow war that's going on, or into an Arcfall with a mass of people. All of this stuff kind of going on around you in the same world, and I think just building on with some other things from other games, having some real classes and having some actual factions, so that Shadow War actually means something after it's over, and you have territories that are owned by certain people. I think that kind of thing is really interesting. And again, going back to Borderlands, if it was more in that kind of vein where you're not just linking up with your friends, but you're going through Borderlands, and then somebody else is on the same quest and you join up with them.
Yeah, I mean, look at a game like World of Warcraft. How much of it is actually combat, compared to everything else it does in terms of exploration and, building reputation and learning about characters. I think it should take a similar approach, not like World of Warcraft, obviously, but in kind of striving for that balance, right? Where shooting should be a component of what you're doing.
But not the be all end all.
Exactly.
Yeah. Just because I always have to mention Dark Souls, I would also, you actually made me think about this with Borderlands, because it already has co-op and dueling. It would be interesting if there was that kind of, I always felt like Dark Souls was kind of like an MMO light in a way.
Sure.
And a lot of people do like that solo experience, but they also do like playing with friends. I think it would be interesting to do a sort of co-op / competitive thing that's more integrated right into the story of the world. And open world first-person shooters are still pretty rare. I mean, obviously we got Far Cry last year, going back to Stalker, I guess, but they're still kind of few and far between. So I think there is spaces beyond the grand scale of Destiny out there.
I mean, the question I would pose to developers, to someone like Bungie who's doing Destiny, or even Blizzard who's purportedly working on something kind of like a shooter for Project Titan. The question I would pose is, what can a shooter do that an MMO can't? Because obviously, when you're playing an MMO, you're faced with all kinds of technical restrictions in terms of movement, what you're trying to do with latency. But obviously, shooters kind of exist in a different space in terms of what they do and what they're capable of. So, I think that would be also a big key in kind of figuring out where MMO FPSs can go and be successful at.
I think that's a really good point and a good place to end for that part.
I have one thing I'd
Sure.
like to throw back in. You raised Respawn Entertainment. We've heard nothing from them. Destiny was at the PlayStation event. Respawn next Tuesday. Respawn's grand unveil next Tuesday. EA were not at Sony's event. Is the ace in the hole this new shooter from?
No way. Well, not next week. Not with Call of Duty being at Microsoft. I don't think they would do that.
Well,
Just from you're an XPR guy. I don't think they would let that happen.
I'd be interested to see, because I don't think
It's interesting, but I sincerely doubt it.
you never know.
Hey, guess what? They're making Gran Turismo 6 for the PlayStation 3.
Yeah.
We have to give this some conversation, and we got Bloodworth here, who's played every racing game ever made.
And a few that never got launched.
I was driving into work. I'm looking at my BlackBerry, like new GTA announced, and
That's
I'm
illegal.
I was at a red light. Is that still illegal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. I came in and like, wait, it's for PS3?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, I'll let you take it from here, but any thoughts? Cars.
Honestly, I mean, we kind of saw this coming because they teased the announcement, but yeah, it's very strange to me that it's PS3. I feel like it kind of goes back to Polyphony's kind of dawdling ways on this platform. It took so long for Gran Turismo 5 to come out. They had Prologue and then like 2 or 3 other demos. I feel like Gran Turismo 6 is something that they probably intended to come out a year earlier, but they were too scared to tell anyone they were working on it. And then this, strange, comments that have come out is like, oh, well, after we get the PS3 version done, then we'll start working on a PS4. and you probably, maybe you can transfer your saves, we'll look into that, It's strange. And I think the game looks good. I mean, from the first-hand impressions that I've seen from people that were at the Silverstone event and stuff, it looks like they really have worked on the physics. They've kind of, they've partnered with Yokohama and with somebody on suspension to really, work on, making the physics feel different and better and less stiff. One thing that I think is kind of funny is now that Gran Turismo has so many cars that when they say they're adding 200 cars to the 1,000 they already have, it doesn't sound like much.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, it's just a number.
Yeah, they're way too tied into their
How
numbers.
different will they look? How much of the detail can we expect? 1/6 of the 200 to be?
Yeah,
fully
that's still a
detailed?
big question,
The
right?
shinier.
Yes, the shiny and the
Are,
accurate
are,
dashboards.
are the other 800 cars going to be brought up to speed, or are they still going to be the same
They're
as
basically
last time around?
So box derbies.
they're basically 800 different shades of a Ford Fiesta.
They are addressing some things that people complained a lot about in terms of load time and user interface, so that's good. But yeah, I think the big takeaway for me is just the fact that I fully expected E3 or even the PlayStation meeting. Like I expected both of these systems to launch with their premier car games. I expected Gran Turismo 6 and Forza 5 to be there day one
Well-
because it's always something that they use to
Polyphony-
show off the
Polyphony
hardware.
were in New York.
But what
Yeah.
game
They were
did? What was the
them-
name? This was we were talking
Drive
about.
Club.
There's Drive Club, and I looked
By the
up.
MotorStorm guys.
And I looked up Club Drive by accident, which everyone should look at. It's an awful Atari Jaguar game that has a fart soundtrack.
Driving 100 miles through a living room.
Yeah, but wasn't it weird that they're like, here's our new car game, and it's quasi-realistic. Well, it's realistic and stuff, and it's not Gran Turismo. And it's like, that's a little weird. I mean, that's kind of the repertoire, right?
Well,
Because Microsoft's obviously owned Forza for a while now. Do you think all these cross-posting, like, you know how like Watch Dogs is going to be on both things, and all these other games are going to be on both platforms, you know, old generation, new generation? Do you feel like even the hardware manufacturers and the publishers themselves are maybe a little underconfident about attach rates for these new consoles?
Hedging their bets.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, I think I mean, we've seen this every time around, so I'm not. I think we'd probably have to go and like compare to see whether it's really more drastic than the last time around. But yeah, I mean, especially with how much the HD development is, you know, you kind of have to get your game on as many SKUs as possible, and if they're, you know, especially if a game like Watch Dogs that would already be on PC, you know, adding another set of variables isn't that difficult, I don't think.
Yeah, I think it's just more of a practical decision than anything else because most people design for PC first and then, you know, up or downscale.
I am
wherever needed.
curious how many of those Wii U ports are just sitting in warehouses right now, though. You know,
Yeah.
the Mass Effect collection, the Darksiders stuff. Like, I'm curious how many. I mean, after I know we just talked about the Madden thing, but I am a little curious about how well some of that stuff sold or how many were printed. Because you know, there's always manufactured numbers, shipped
Shipped,
numbers,
and
which is
yeah.
bullshit, and then actual
Sold,
purchased,
yeah.
sold. Did you want to say anything else about any other racing games?
I mean, well, I mean,
We
when
talk about them infrequently, so I figured we can let them shine.
yeah, I mean, Wednesday was kind of car day around here. I mean, it was pretty cool. We had some new grid footage, and we had Gran Turismo, and then my thing that I wrote several days before the Gran Turismo reveal for Forza went up. Yeah, I mean, it got me pumped. I finally went out and bought the Horizon Rally Pack, which is way too expensive, but it's pretty. I'm liking it so far. But yeah, I think that racing games are one of those things that will always continue to evolve as those technical limitations get lifted. So there's always, good things to look forward to.
Can we ask Microsoft to bring back the Sidewinder range of peripherals with the next Xbox? So when you play Forza, you can play with the old Sidewinder steering wheels. I missed that stuff. That stuff was
Well,
great.
I mean, the complaint has been that they haven't allowed Logitech to put those wheels that people already have for
Yeah.
PC and PS3 to use them with Forza.
But
You have
I
to
mean-
get your own Forza wheel.
I remember when, back in the late 90s when Microsoft were doing the PC peripherals, and they were one of the first guys with a force feedback wheel for a driving game, and this was for the PC.
They had a really good mouse.
They had
too.
flight sticks. Yeah, the Sidewinder.
I thought you were talking about the mouse.
Yeah, well, the
it?
mouse, the driving,
Was it
the
Sidewinder?
driving game, the Sidewinder, the flight sticks were great because I was working for a company that did, flight simulators, and they were really cool. Remember flight simulators?
Yeah.
Flight games in general. I mean, we were talking Crimson Skies earlier, and has there been like a really memorable? I mean, I know there's been some Ace Combat games and stuff, but Crimson Skies seems to be the last memorable flight game that I can think of.
Yeah, I think.
Blazing Angels 2 or 1, I think was pretty decent. Hawks was garbage, but
I just think that Microsoft, in the rush to wavy Connect and everything, I think they're missing a trick. I think there's still nothing better than having a kick-ass driving wheel in front of you, or a flight stick, or a really good controller. And I just miss the Sidewinder stuff. I would actually shell out for a brand new Sidewinder. I might even play driving games then.
oh, don't lie to us.
All right, I just drive my car and pretend I'm playing.
You have like a scarf. If I feel the need for speed, then
Driving
throw
gloves.
it over.
Driving gloves, yes, leather
Driving gloves,
Furry
aviation
dice.
glasses. So this is we're gonna wrap up, but I was curious, grab bag. Anyone have anything to say? If not, I did pull a Twitter question, but is there anything anyone wanted to discuss?
Can I just say Metro Last Light is fantastic? I love it.
Did you play the first one?
I didn't actually.
Oh, okay.
And I got to say, this one, playing on the PC, feels Half-Life-y. And it's just it's just a great story. And yeah, I think if you like anything that, first-person games with a story and with a bit of variety to them and just something that sucks you in, Metro Last Light is a great game.
Yeah.
What was your big complaint from the first one?
AI. The AI was just
Do you feel like that's kind of
No,
been
AI is
addressed?
pretty. I've been playing along, and some of the AI is kind of brutal in places, but in a good way.
Yeah. I mean,
you are
the
up
problem-
against
the
some
problem
trained
wasn't-
soldiers.
the problem with the AI in the original wasn't necessarily the way they were supposed to behave. It was that they were so buggy they did just ridiculous stuff sometimes.
No, I
Kind
haven't
of like
seen
how
any
Crisis
of,
2 was at sometimes.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of those problems, and it's very atmospheric. When you're wading through 3 layers of shit in a sewer, and you see flashlights above you, and you have to try and find a place to hide, and all of a sudden you know that you've only got a certain couple of minutes or maximum left on your air filter. It's a really good game.
Yeah, that game has a lot of cool systems. I do want to check it out.
And they don't feel restrictive. I mean, it's not an annoyance that you have to change your air filter every 5 minutes to start off. It feels like, this feels just natural.
Well, I'm going to take the Twitter question. I thought this one was kind of interesting. Maybe a little dull, but something that we have to deal with sometimes. And it's from Darmist57, and he wants to know what our opinion is about reviewing games that are launched while in open beta. And he put a Neverwinter Nights, or just Neverwinter as an example. And do you remember when we ended up reviewing Minecraft? We waited for it to hit like version
Yeah.
1.0, and it was like,
Because then you could actually beat it.
yeah, I mean, it's like it is weird, and right, like I remember people giving Capcom all that shit for Mega Man Legends 3
Yeah.
paid beta, and yes, they are a big company, but it is weird. Like Dust officially launched this week, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
okay. I think it may lessen the kind of the launches in general. I think it's one of those things where we probably play it by ear. I think it's an evolving process. Well, before it was like when the game's released, we'll play the released game. We only review final code, that kind of thing.
But like Hawken's still in beta now, right?
Hawken, yeah,
Like, it was-
that was supposed to be like a November launch.
Yeah.
I don't
Supposed
even
to
know.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
their launch ended up being the launch of like the open beta. It was really strange.
Please don't crucify me for getting this wrong, but what's the bad zombie survival game?
Oh, it's
Warzy.
Warzy's the bad one?
Yeah.
Daisy is the good one.
Okay,
yes.
I'm sorry.
I had to think about that for a
Yeah,
second.
yeah. Like even that, man, that kind of like, I guess it's out. Like they were like, I mean, we were talking to those guys, and they were like, yeah, so beta, it's out.
It's out. It's pulled down. The Steam page is down. It's back up. It's in a lawsuit. Like I have simple rules when it comes to betas. If it's a beta, 1, I don't want to review it. 2, I shouldn't expect to pay for it. If anybody puts anything out in charges for a beta, they deserve their nuts chopped off with a rusty spoon.
Is Dota 2 been in beta now for like 2 years?
It's in Gmail beta. Basically,
Yeah.
it's out.
Yeah, it's some weird stuff. I think even that word itself is kind of changing as development becomes more easy. Like I opened up Unity a couple days ago, and I don't know what I'm doing, but I still was able to do things while I'm not. Like it's changing the whole system.
So
Yeah,
we
well,
can
they've been
expect
so promoted too.
We can expect Ryan Stevens, the Facebook
Well,
game.
oh totally. Only on Palm Pilots and Nokia phones. But yeah, I mean, and obviously you can kickstart things and get beta access. So is that a paid beta? I mean,
Yeah, it's interesting.
maybe not quid pro quo, but it's the same.
I guess it
it's the
depends on
same-
whether you still see yourself as a customer or as a co-developer. You know?
Or a backer. You're not a customer, you're a backer, aren't you?
Yeah.
I don't think you're a co-developer.
Yeah, but to this guy's point, I mean, I reviewed a couple MMOs for the site, and I feel like, yeah, it is kind of a tricky thing because these games do change by the month, sometimes by the day, just
Yeah.
with the nature of patches happening, over time. And some games turn out really different over time. They might be way better and way worse. For me, I try to approach it on kind of a wide scale. I try to look past whatever technical faults are there because 1, they may be gone tomorrow, and 2, it might be completely different coming up. So I kind of just take it for what it tries to do kind of on a broad level and evaluate it from that because, content will come in over time, but you can't really change the underpinnings of what it is. So
Although
That's what I try
I
to go
won't
for.
overlook something that's extremely annoying and should be simple to fix.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like when something is fundamentally flawed on a very basic level, then of course I'm going to call it out on it. But you know, if battlegrounds aren't working, or you know, if I can't queue up for something, then yeah, like that's not quite as glaring of an error in my mind.
Let's face it, the phrase open beta is something that's been co-opted by marketing people as a way to avoid criticism. Where it's like, oh, it's only an open beta. Oh, we are fixing it. And
Stress testing.
Yeah, it's stress testing. And it's basically the marketing people have said, all right, well, maybe they'll cut us some slack because our pile of shit's going out and this is actually the final version, but we'll say it's in open beta for X amount of time, and then by the time people stop worrying about it, we'd have made our money anyway.
So open betas are piles of shit. You heard it here first.
Not all of them.
I know. Well, thank you, gentlemen. Hopefully we will have the full set for next week. I don't know if this sign's going to be here anymore. You know, watch on Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific for our live stream with Daniel Kaiser about the next Xbox. And when you want to see the new Xbox here on GT, you can watch the promo graphic that's going to play right now.
It happens just twice a decade. The start of a new generation of gaming. New games, new experiences. Go! On May 21st, only Spike and GT are live in Seattle when Xbox unveils what's next, including Call of Duty Ghosts. Xbox, a new generation revealed. Spike's exclusive coverage begins Tuesday, May 21st at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on GameTrailers.com. And immediately following the announcement, GTTV's Jeff Keighley is live with Don Matrick for the official post-show. Go behind the scenes for an inside look at the new Xbox as Jeff goes hands-on at Microsoft.